want to start this conversation, though, with really busting in and shattering the myth that drug abuse or substance abuse doesn't happen here in Muskegon County. I'm going to ask Rika to talk about the experience that the hospital has had over the last few years as it relates to that.
Thank you. I'm really honored to be here today. I'm new at this, so forgive me. I have worked with ICU and in our ER at Hackley Hospital for several years now. Currently, as DJ said, I'm a case manager, so I'm looking at charts for ER patients who come into our ER quite frequently. What I see consistently day to day is the use of prescription pain meds being combined with alcohol, being combined with heroin. It's all of those above, it's one, it could be only one. We had a case several weeks ago, and I can still hear the young girl crying, "Am I gonna die? Don't let me die, I'm gonna die." And I'm sorry to say that she did the next day. And she was an overdose of heroin. And I believe she was in her early 20s. We had to turn around and tell her parents, which I've done before, don't like to do it. But now imagine what her parents and her family have got to live with for the rest of their lives. Looking at some numbers and how data is collected is generally a year, maybe 2 years behind. So the best data that we have is from 2015. Overdose deaths of illicit and prescription drugs outweighed the deaths of guns and traffic accidents. Okay, so granted, we are all at risk every day. We walk outside of our door. But because of some choices that you've made, and when I say you, I don't mean any of you necessarily, I don't know any of you. But because of choices made, they're not going to go home that night. Okay. Marijuana is difficult to overdose on. It can be done, it's rare. The symptoms you might see as parents, as friends, if you're out at that party, where your friend may be feeling panicked, that anxiety attack is coming on. Their heart is racing, and it truly does race, because that heart rate is up. If you have the chest pain, again, very similar to an anxiety attack, you become very paranoid, okay? You might hallucinate. You might hear people talking that aren't really there. You might see animals or people in front of you. Then comes the difficulty breathing and the feeling that you're going to pass out. Heroin is a different kind of overdose. Heroin is a depressant. So what we're going to see is you become very lethargic, very tired, and then you stop breathing. And it can happen very fast, because I'll tell you what, we don't know anymore what's mixed either with marijuana or with heroin. Right now we're hearing more about fentanyl being mixed in. That used to be a drug given to only hospice patients to deal with their severe pain. Okay, and now it's in your everyday drug. Because of HIPAA, I can't really say a lot, but I'm going to tell you about an overdose that happened in the 1970s. Made national news for many reasons. Karen was about 20 years old. She was adopted as a baby, lived in a great family, very nice home. Described as a tomboy. She liked to swim, she liked to play tennis, liked to ski. This was out east. Didn't go to college. She was in college prep as in high school. Chose not to go to college right away, got a few jobs. And then family and friends started to notice a change in her. And again, parents now, this is what you have to look for, that change. Okay. She kind of drifted then from job to job. Got involved with a new group of people, different friends, started to party with the alcohol and the drugs. One night she went to a birthday party, was drinking. We're not sure, I've read several different spots what she took. They were prescription drugs. They went home that night, 15 minutes later she stopped breathing. I don't know what made her friends check on her when they put her to bed. They checked on her, they started CPR, got her to the hospital. She lived a year with a ventilator. Okay, so she had a breathing tube in her throat, hooked to a machine, keeping her alive. The brainwave test showed that her brain waves were very slow. She went on for 10 more years, living in a nursing home, not talking. Parents visited, I believe Dad visited twice a day, Mom visited once, and she eventually died of pneumonia. But just because she mixed the alcohol and the prescription drugs, she was basically brain dead for 10 years. I can't imagine a family going through that. And trust me, kids, your parents don't want that for you. And if you think about it, don't put your parents through that because it's very, very hard on them. Okay. Like I said, I've given enough death notifications. I've been a nurse for 42 years. It's not nice. It breaks my heart. So for a night of partying, think of what you may leave behind. Thank you.
Thank you, Rika. I think the important thing that we need to take away from this is that what our own ERs are seeing, as you indicated, those shattering numbers, that the amount of deaths via overdose outnumber those via gun and traffic. And we're seeing that here in Muskegon County.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, it is a sad, sad state of affairs, so I appreciate that information, and I hope folks are taking that to heart. I want to turn to our two dynamic individuals here and have them talk about their own personal experience. And I got to tell you, I'm going to say this up front, they're not professional speakers. They're two individuals, as we were looking for somebody to help deliver a message to our young people. There are two individuals that stepped forward and said, you know what, I can be that somebody, and I want to deliver that message because they know from personal experience what it's like to go through not only an addiction to marijuana, but also addiction to opioids and heroin. So I want everybody to really pay attention to what they have to say because this is real, true life experience that you're going to hear about. So we're going to start with something very easy, I hope, both Kaylee and Dan. I want you to talk about how did it start? How old were you? Where were you at in school? What were you doing prior to school? Or what were you doing in school prior to it? And what happened after the fact? So I threw a lot of questions at you, but I want you to just kind of start us from the beginning of your life and tell these kids what age you were and why you started and what you started with.
Okay, hi, good morning everybody. I was 13 years old when I first started smoking marijuana. It began by hanging out with the wrong crowds, trying to fit in, trying to be cool, trying to be liked, be popular. I was very good in school all my life until I started smoking marijuana. My grades drastically dropped. I stopped wanting to go to classes, I started skipping school. I thought that smoking marijuana and hanging out with my friends was more important.
And is it safe, in our prior conversation, were you a daily user and were you using it pretty much every day?
Absolutely.
Now, as a result then, as you started kind of drifting away, not only from school, from maybe some of the positive peers, what happened as a result of some of the extracurricular activities that you were involved in school? What happened with that?
I just quit. I stopped everything. I drifted away from my family. My family tried to talk to me. The counselors at school tried to talk to me. Nothing was more important. Weed was more important. Marijuana was more important. Skipping school and hanging out with my friends was more important. I did not go to not one class without smoking.
And before we come to Dan's story, can you describe for the students, the mental, I guess, aspect of the addiction itself? I mean, how did it make you feel? Where did it put you? I mean, were you thinking clearly kind of thing? Could you describe that, please?
I can absolutely say when you smoke marijuana, you cannot make logical decisions. My mind was clouded. I couldn't think straight. Drifted all the time. I couldn't even hold on to one thought for over a period of minutes.
All right, we're going to get to the rest of your story here in just a second, but I want to have Dan answer those same questions. Can you describe for the audience here this afternoon kind of how your journey through this addiction started and what it was like, and as far as school goes, what you're involved in and what happened as a result of that?
Good morning, everybody. My name's Dan Nelson. I'm a recovering addict. And, sitting here, you guys are 18, 19, 20 years old. Looking back, I was sitting in the same place for a dare, like learning about drugs, and I thought to myself that could never possibly happen to me, that I could never become addicted to something. Well, physical dependence is something that you cannot control. You become sick. So we go back a little farther. When I started using, I started smoking marijuana. And then I found some Norco's in my grandma's prescription in the cupboard. And I took them, and I loved the way they made me feel. They made me stronger. I was a wrestler. I could recover faster. I wasn't sore anymore. I just liked it. I liked mixing them with weed. I did that for about a solid year, and I started waking up in the morning sick. I didn't feel right. I would take pills, and then I would feel better. And I started wondering what it was. I started getting a higher addiction towards pills and Norco's. I started having to buy more. Power started going up. I started making a problem in my life. I started seeing changes going on with myself. I started separating from people that were positive influences in my life. My wrestling started decreasing. I was becoming weaker. I wasn't right in my head. I was thinking different. So I asked for help. I got online and someone told me to go to a methadone clinic. So I go try to get help, and I go to this methadone clinic, and they prescribed me methadone, which was, at the time I didn't know, was a higher class of Norco's, and progressed my usage from a smaller Norco addiction now to a methadone addiction, which is much more potent, eventually which led into heroin. And the heroin didn't start just by shooting it either. It started just going to parties. People would be sniffing it. Hey, this stuff is cool. It's just, people would be sniffing it. See, a lot of my friends have died, overdose. And it starts from right now. And you got to know that you cannot. You got to know that if you mess around with this stuff, that it will snatch you up. It will take you so fast, and you won't know. And by the time it has you, it's too late, and you're going to look around. And you're going to be too scared to tell anybody about what's going on with you, because you're going to. It never happened to me. It does, and it takes everything from you. It will take everything. So.
Well, I want you to expand on that for just a second, because one of the things that I think we need, one of the messages, obviously, I think we want to be real about here is this idea that, and maybe you two experienced this, where you felt like, well, look, I can try this, and if it doesn't work out for me, I'm just going to stop.
Absolutely.
And did you have the power, the willpower, if you will, the discipline, once you got really hooked into the substances that you were abusing, did you have the power to actually stop?
That's the terrible thing about addiction is it becomes stronger than what you can do to stop. You can't stop anymore. Now, with my case, heroin, opioids, it become a physical dependency. So without it, your body goes into withdrawal. So withdrawal means without your body gets used to taking a substance for a period of time. You take it away from it, your body doesn't know what to do. It goes haywire, it leaks right out. You're talking, puking. The worst sickness you can possibly imagine, times that by 10, and that's what you wake up to every morning. That's why addicts stay addicts. It's not because they want to continue getting high or they want to have fun. It's now to the point where they have to. They wake up, they run from the sickness. You're so sick every day that it keeps you right locked in it. That's the scary part. It's so hard to kick, to make it through the withdrawals and to keep pushing, because it just pulls everybody away from you in your life. People always turn their backs and start using drugs, and you do it yourself. You put yourself around people who who won't judge you, who will look at you, and you can use around them. If you're around positive people, they say, "Damn, what's going on with you?" And they'd say that, and that's why I pulled myself away every time. As soon as people start noticing addiction with me, there's 5 or 6 different times I got clean from going to jail and then got back out and would start using again. Had all the best intentions on staying clean, but had no foundation for doing it.
How about you, Kaylee? Same question. I mean, did at any point in time did you feel that you had the power just to stop and be done with it?
No, because with marijuana, it was more of a mental thing versus a physical. I would start getting racing thoughts, and it was the only thing that would calm my thoughts. It was the only thing that made me feel like I was normal.
Now, turning the tides here just a little bit, as part of both of your stories, and Kaylee, I want to start with you. Obviously, your use of marijuana and your addiction took you down a road that kind of changed your life at a very young age. And so could you describe for our audience, both live and the ones watching us live on these social media sites, what happened to you?
When I was 16 years old, I was drinking and doing marijuana all the time. I started getting around the wrong crowds and got into a relationship with a significant other. We decided to do an armed robbery. I went to prison at 16 and served an 8-year sentence. And it was the worst pain in the world to turn around and have to look at your parents and walk away for 8 years, 8 Christmases away, 8 birthdays away, babies have been born. It was a struggle, definitely. It's something that I still deal with today. I don't know how many times I have to question myself whether or not, how does my family still feel? I can't imagine. It has to still hurt. As bad as I fight every day to be a better person and to give back, it still doesn't take that pain away. While incarcerated, I took multiple classes, multiple groups to try to make myself better. Was it easy? No, because addiction starts with what's inside. What are you feeling inside that makes you feel like you need to do this? So that's where some people don't look into. They don't look into what is that feeling. How can you solve that feeling without a substance? How can you deal with those emotions without throwing a substance on top of it? Because when the substance is gone, the problem is still there.
Well, that's a very good point. I was going to ask you that question. Obviously leading up to your situation with the criminal justice system and then getting into it, did you solve your problem? Did smoking marijuana and drinking alcohol at such a young age solve the issues that you were hoping that those substances would mask?
Absolutely not. It just made everything so much worse when I came down. When I wasn't high or I wasn't drinking, the feeling was 10 times worse than it was the day before. So that's why I felt like I needed to use 10 times more the next day, because the feeling was so much worse.
Is it safe to say that, do you make that correlation between your use of marijuana or your abuse of marijuana and alcohol that kind of led you down that path that ultimately, cost you 8 years of your life?
Yeah, because while on marijuana and alcohol, you do not think clearly. I believe that had I had a clear mind, I know I would have never went along with the armed robbery. I'm not that person. I was raised better than that.
Dan, same questions to you. As you were, and you kind of indicated a little bit already that you were in and out of rehab, and I would assume that part of that was a mixing in with the criminal justice system. Could you describe kind of your path and what happened there?
Yeah, so turning 18, I've been using now for a little over a year. It's all the time I'm starting to really see the change going on with me. I got tangled up with law enforcement for my first time. I caught some stolen guns, and ended up going to jail. Got out, and was 21 or 20. I was 21 when I got out. Did my 21st birthday in jail, and got out and had a son, so about 22, and now I'm back to using again at 22. I just had my son, and I didn't quite know what to do. So I told my probation officer, I said, I'm back to using again. I tried detox and I can't do it by myself. I keep going back. I just had a son. I need help. I need you to put me in jail. And he looked at me and he said, put you in jail? He said, why would I do that? I said, I can't do this by myself. I gotta get clean. And so he put me in jail, and 12 days and I wake up. It's the first time that, I was really striving towards it. All the other times I tried it, I'd go to jail for a little bit. I didn't ever really want to change, but this time I did.
Let's talk about that just a little bit, and I'm going to go back to you, Kaylee, on that. Is it safe to say that your time in prison was kind of the lowest point in your life? I mean, I guess I hate to assume that, but I'm going to assume that.
Absolutely.
Now, and is that the point in time where you decided to make that positive change for yourself? And could you describe kind of the process you went through as you were realizing what you had to do personally in order to overcome that particular addiction?
Yes, with me, because I went to prison at such a young age, even when I first got into the system there, I did not want to be different. I still had the mentality, the marijuana in my system, and the mentality that it is what it is. Like, I did not take life seriously. Throughout my journey in prison, there was a lot of rough times. I did get in trouble. I did make choices that were poor. And it came down to going into the RSAT program in there. And when I first got into the program, I called my dad and I said, I don't want to do this program. I don't want to be part of this. And he said, is it going to get you home? And I said, yeah, it can get me home, but I don't want to do it. We continued our conversation. The lady on the phone said 1 minute remaining. And the last thing I heard was my dad tell me, Kaylee, I hope you make the right choice. And from that day forward was the day that I decided that things were gonna be different. I was no longer gonna be that lost little 16-year-old girl. It was time for me to grow up.
And coming back to you, Dan, when you made that kind of that life choice, that turn, what was it for you that, I guess, the light bulb clicked? You said, now is the time, I've got to do this.
That was when it clicked. I had tried it a couple times before. There was a rehab stay before that too. Went to the Salvation Army and had almost completed the program and had got kicked out towards the end, getting into a fight with a kid, and then went to jail and then got back out. So now I'm out and then got started using again. So now that's when I turned myself into jail. And while I was in there, I turned myself in, mind you. I'm in there, they put me in a security cell, all by myself, and I sat in that cell and I went through some of the most horrific withdrawals I've ever been through. And while I was in there, laying there by myself and thinking about the times I've tried this and my son, and how that I could beat this, and my ways weren't working, so I got on my knees and I prayed for the first time ever. I didn't know what I was doing, didn't know how to pray, I didn't even really believe in God, but I just needed to try something different. So I did, I prayed to him. And I told him that my ways weren't working and that I needed his help. And I get out 12 days later, and I tell my girlfriend at the time that I'm gonna go to church on Sunday. And she looks at me and she goes, Dan Nelson, go to church? Yeah, right, that'll be the day. This is Friday, I said, I'm going to church on Sunday. So Sunday comes and I go get my car, I said, I'm going to church. And she looked at me and she just shook her head. I get in my car and I get to the highway. I get to the car and I get to the highway and I look left and I look right and I know not to go south because that's where I used to get my drugs from Muskegon, so I better go north. So I head north, get off this exit, and I see a church. I pull in, got a lot of cars, I'm super overwhelmed, I can't do it. I pull back out. I do this about 3 more churches, and I just can't do it. I pull in this church, and it's got the most cars that all of them I've been to. It's 12 o'clock. And I tell myself, I say, Dan, if you're gonna do this, you better do it. So you better get in there. So I walk into this church, I walk down the hallway and everybody's looking at me. Mind you, I just got out of jail, 12 days of detox, and I'm very thin, very pale, very weak, cheekbones sticking out, very rough. I sit down on this couch and I look around and people are looking at me and I'm back at them. I can't. So I get up and I start walking back down the hallway to leave. I open up the door, I make one foot out of the door and I hear my name, Dan. I stop and I look back in, and on the inside of the door there's a lady who used to watch me wrestle. She used to cross me across the street when I was young. She goes, Dan, what are you doing here? And I look at her and I don't even know what I'm doing there. I can't say nothing. At that same time, I feel a hand on my shoulder and say, Rose, who is this young man? And she goes, oh, this is Dan Nelson. Starts introducing me to him, and I look at him and he goes, so what are you doing here? And I'm like, well, I think I missed you guys at chapel. He's like, yes, you did. He's like, but luckily today, we have a guest speaker today. He's like, let me bring you down here. Let me bring you to the chapel. So he walks me down, he introduces me to a few people. He brings me to this chapel and I sit down. And it's a big chapel. There's only maybe 10 or 15 people spread out through this chapel. So I sit down, this old man comes walking up, pulls out his book. He goes, today I'm going to speak on something everybody in this room already knows about. And little does everybody know in this room that I'm the pastor for Oceana County Jail. It grabbed my attention as soon as he said that. I had just got out of Oceana County Jail. So I start paying attention to him. He says, today we're going to talk about acceptance, about letting Christ into his life. There's a young man in this room who's going to give his life to Christ today. And that this is his first time in a church. And we're going to talk about accepting life. I start losing it. I start looking around. I don't see anybody who would have been from the jail. He doesn't know that I'm supposed to be here. I don't even know that I'm supposed to be here. He starts speaking. I start crying. Like he's talking right to me. He gets done. I walk up to him and I say, I'm Dan Nelson. I just got out of Oceana County Jail. This is my first time ever in a church. He looked at me with this look that I can't describe. He's seen something in me that I can't see, didn't see myself. He told me to come have breakfast with him, and I did, him and his wife. And his name is Mr. Harden. He incorporated himself into my life. Mind you, I'm a heroin addict right now. He put himself into my life, and he changed my whole life. He worked on everything about me. Got my license back, got me graduated from high school, got me a job, started working on my parenting skills, just everything. 2 months after I met Mr. Harden, we're sitting in the driver's, getting my license back. And we're praying. And I said, Mr. Harden, there's something on my heart that I've been needing to ask you. He goes, what's that, Dan? I said, remember when you first met me? He said, I could never forget it. That morning you met me, you were the pastor of that church for over 20 years. You could have got up in front of them and you could have spoken about anything under the sun. But instead, you got up there that morning and you spoke on something that everybody didn't want to hear. Every morning when I show up to church, Mr. Harden, you're standing there at the door waiting for me. You're the first one there and the last one to leave. The kid who told you he was coming to church that Sunday when he was doing his ministry at jail never showed up. You stood there by that door knowing he didn't show up. You walked in that chapel and you spoke on something everybody didn't want to hear. Why? You knew he wasn't there. You could have spoke on anything else. Why did you say that there was a person here changing his life today and he's giving his life to Christ? He says, because God told me to. And I've held on to that. I went back and started using after those times, but I've held on to that because that's how I did it. My way didn't work. It wasn't about my way. And for people who don't really believe about a higher power, don't call him God. Call him your higher power. There's one out there, and that's what saved my life. I never had been to a church a day in my life. I didn't believe on that stuff, and I stepped out on a limb, and look where it took me. I got knocked back up again, but you know what? God found me in there too, and He got me out of there. He put me in a rehab program, and this time I took it serious. I took it like it was a full-time job, like I was in college. I studied everything I could. I asked questions to everybody I could. I told God that I wouldn't give up, that if He helped me, that I would not give up, and I didn't. And I'm sitting here today because He's going to use me to help kids not make the same choices that I made. He's going to use me in ways that It scares the shit out of me. But you know what? That's what I'm here for. I want to wake up every day, and if I can just help one person, say, you know what? Just because of you, Dad, I didn't give up. That hits me home. That's what I want to do. You know, everything that I went through, yeah, it was bad. 4 felonies, 13 misdemeanors, 3 overdoses, 4 stays in rehab. It was a long, long road. But it made me so strong. And now, you know, I have my son sitting right there. He's 5. I love that kid.
Kaylee, talk about life after. Let's talk about life after. You know, how are your thoughts? Is it sunshine and roses, or are you still struggling?
I definitely struggle every day I wake up. Not a day goes by that it's easy. Especially being on parole and having a felony that I carry with me the rest of my life. I've had multiple doors shut in my face since I've been home. I've reached out to multiple juvenile detention centers, multiple schools, talking to kids, because the kids in those classes, that's me. That was me, I was their age. I went to Holton School and did an open talk. The first thing I asked was who was the oldest kid in this class. The girl raised her hand and she was 14. By the time I was her age, I had been on tether, house arrest, and in the youth home, leading my way to destruction. And I know that not every kid will listen, but all that matters is just if I can just save one. If I can change one and help one, then I know that I've done my part.
Well, you know, you both have very powerful stories, and I want you to take, and I want to hear from both of you. We're going to take 2 angles here. I want you to now talk directly to not only the students in our studio audience, but the students that are watching us live on the various social media networks here, and talk to them directly. And I want you to be straight and honest with them about, you know, what should they do if they're being peer pressured, or they're thinking about experimenting with whatever substance, whether it be marijuana, you know, a prescription medication, or heroin, or any other illicit drug. What message do you have for the student?
So there's multiple help out there. I had so many people in my life try to help me. A big place that you can go to right now is Health West, definitely. You can go there, talk to them, they will help you. There's counselors, your counselors at school, your teachers at school will listen. Even when you feel like they're not gonna listen, they will listen. And the biggest thing is, don't push your parents away. That was my biggest fault, is the 2 people that loved me the most and wanted me to do the most, I pushed them away. Talk to them, they will listen. They will get you help. They will be there.
How about you, Dan? What message do you have for the young folks here in our audience and watching us? Absolutely. My question was, I want you to talk directly to the students. And I want you to talk about where they can go, where they can turn to if they're getting peer pressured to try a drug. If they are thinking about experimenting with an illicit drug. Or maybe they've already started down that path and are feeling like you did, and both did initially, where there's no hope. What message do you have for those kids? Grab your microphone.
Sorry. Well, first is the company you keep. It's key. You know, that's one thing I've learned about staying clean, and for real, it is. Whoever you hang out with, congrats. It'll. That's what you guys do. You know, you hang out with people using drugs, you're gonna use drugs. You hang out with people doing good, succeeding, you're gonna succeed. It's a sequence. It's always gonna be that way. There isn't no way all of us are. You can't be the only sober one in the group, and 3 or 4 of your friends that you hang out with every day smoke pot, and you're not gonna smoke pot. Eventually, most likely you're gonna smoke pot. So pick your friends wisely. You know what I mean? Like your friends, pick them wisely. You know, pick good friends. Pick ones that are staying healthy. You know, pick ones that are doing good. You know, stick around those guys. If you're falling down the struggles where you're starting to feel some of the things that I'm talking about, maybe you're experimenting with weed, or maybe you start to take Norcos and you're starting to feel some type of way. First thing is not to bury this issue. Don't bury it, because you guys are going to want to do that. You're going to want to bury it and say, oh, I can handle this myself. You better catch it while it's early. Go to somebody and talk to them. Go find a sponsor. Look up AA or NA online. It'll show up, and then look for a sponsor. There's a bunch of sponsors with literally like me. You could call me any time of day, and I don't care what's going on. If you say, Darren, I'm about to relapse, I'm going to talk to you, and I'm going to try to put a smile on your face, and I'm going to drive my happy ass over there, and I'm going to sit there with you, and we're going to figure this out. You know, it's the same thing. You know, just with your friends too. You start to see your friends. Pay attention to your friends. If you start seeing your friends slip off, you care for your friends. Care for them like you care for yourself. Don't come up to them, hey, you know, this is what you're doing wrong. Be a good friend. Like, hey, man, like, I'm here for you. You know, like, don't push them away. Like, I know you've been doing this. You know, like, I want to help you. Like, come with me. Like, try to help them out. If not, if you see your friends, and tell their parents. You know, maybe the parents, you gotta get the ball rolling now, because you wait a year or two into taking pills and partying and smoking weed, you're gonna put yourself on a cycle of continuing using it, and you don't want to be there. I'm telling you, drugs are fun, yeah, they make you feel good, but you know what? It's only for a temporary fix, because I'm telling you, the feeling that you feel afterwards is way unimaginable compared to a good feeling. I'm telling you. You do not ever want to go into withdrawal. You know, when you guys look at it like, oh, it's just a little bit of pot. You know what I mean? I'm just smoking pot right now. Well, you got to be really careful, because pot leads to Norcos, and Norcos lead to morphines, and morphines lead to heroin, and it's just that easy. And it happens.
Yeah, I had something else I would like to say. If you do feel like you're slipping, and you do feel like, you know, you're starting to get help, you're starting to see counselors, you have to change your people, places, and things. You cannot go back to the same environment. It's not going to work.
All right, I want to switch gears. And I know you want to. We're going to get to the help part here in just a second. I want to switch gears for the parents that are watching in either the studio audience here or live. What message or what help can you give them as it relates to maybe how they deal with or look for the warning signs of their kids if they are using illegal substances?
The first thing I would say is pay closer attention to their friends. Sometimes, you know, me, from my experience, I told my parents all the time, they're good friends, they mean well, we're not doing anything. You need to pay attention more to the friends, more to talking to the friends and parents, seeing what's going on there. When they start to become distant, they start running away, that's when you need to start paying attention. When their grades start dropping, when they stop wanting to do extracurricular activities, if they come home from school every day and all they want to do is lay down, there's something going on.
Dan, same question.
Yeah, and parents, you know, you gotta lock your bills up. You know, if you got painkillers laying around the house, you got benzos, you know, antidepressants, lock them up. Don't put your kids in a position where they could get their hands on them. Just lock them up and count them. You know, because every parent is going to want to say that this same thing you're going to say. This couldn't be my kid, and they'll make it where, you know, they'll overlook issues going on with their kids because, oh, maybe he's just sick, or maybe he's just this. You as a parent, you spent your whole life raising them. Take that little bit of extra effort towards the end of it to make sure that they're finishing the road with the 18. You know, just make sure they're not using the same thing that she's saying. You know, like it's really easy to figure it out. You know, like they will be oversleeping, their friends overeating. They're unorganized. Their grades will start to drop. You know, you can tell the difference. They're not putting their weight on. They're not eating normally. They're just really easy things to look at. You know, you got to pay attention. But first, lock your pills up, because they'll get into them. Kids, I used to get into all my mom's stuff. I'm sure a lot of you guys did too. We like to get in our parents' stuff and then finding pain pills or antidepressants. It's just a lot of kids are doing it these days. As parents, lock your pills up.
Let's focus. We got a few minutes here before we're going to take some questions, but I want to go back to where to look for help. I've got some information. Rika, you've got some information. If you could describe that, please.
Kaylee said Health West is an excellent resource. They will hook you up. Mercy Life Counseling will also hook you up. They even have recovery coaches that, again, you start feeling you're ready to slip, it's a matter of a phone call. We have information in the ER on some of those plans that I make with that name and number on it, so we will call them. Okay.
I'm assuming all this stuff we can find online. I mean, we're an online society
Yes,
now.
everything's online.
Everything's
Northwest
online.
and Mercy Life Counseling.
And I think, the other thing too, and maybe you can address this, sometimes, and maybe this is the perception of students is, well, if I go talk to somebody, they're gonna tell my mom and dad, or, somebody's gonna find out. I don't want anybody to find out that I'm going through these struggles. Is there some anonymity, if you will, if they do look for help?
There is some, okay, there's some. I mean, again, we work with HIPAA in the medical field. However, if you are a true danger to yourself or others, they will call your parents. You also stand a chance to be hospitalized.
But those are, certainly those are risks worth taking, right? When we're talking about
Absolutely.
somebody's life.
Absolutely, I would do it in a heartbeat.
And the other thing, we talked about Health West, their number, and we'll say this a couple of times, is 231-720-3200. 231-720-3200 is how you get a hold of the assessment plan for Health West.
The access line.
They will do that. I'm going to look towards my volunteers. Do we have any questions? Thank you. Okay. Oh, this is a great first question. Do you still have temptations or slip-ups? In other words, do you still feel the need sometimes that you have to go back to using again? Is that always on your mind?
That will be on an addict's brain the rest of their life. Anytime that something you're struggling or hard, that is going to be what you think that you need to turn to. But there's so much support. People are so big on spreading, oh, this is where you can get drugs, or this is what you can do. Start spreading where the support is. There is support here. I didn't know that. I didn't know that till I got out on parole. I had the best support team when I came home. Josh Decker, he works for Health West. He was amazing. He helped me with a lot. My PO, she helps me with a lot. There is support out there.
How about you, Dan? Same question. Do you still have that? Is there still that nagging temptation sometimes when either stress level or situation arises?
It's a daily struggle. Being an addict, you got to take it day by day. That's the thing too. Is us addicts, we became addicts, and then we have a lot of problems. Usually, addicts have a lot of problems. They use drugs to cope with these feelings that they're experimenting, and then after so long of using drugs to cope with them, they don't know how to deal with their own emotions without using drugs. That's the terrible thing about it, because you do drugs for 4 years and you haven't dealt with an issue in 4 years, really, and then you get sober and something big comes up and it's too hard, you don't know how to do it, so you fall back into it. But you have to. You can stay strong, but how you do that is you've got to have a goal. You can't stay stagnant. You can't sit there and not be doing nothing. You've got to have a direction in your life. You've got to have something that you're looking at, something that you're moving towards every day. Because if you don't, you're going to be stagnant. You're going to sit there, something bad's going to happen, and you're going to go back to using again. It's going to happen. It's going to have a direction. Okay.
I was going to go ahead and then
There's
follow.
just one thing that I wanted to add. In the program that I was in RSAT, one of the statements that they told me there that has stuck with me the rest of my life is if you change the way that you look at something, the things you look at change. So if you sit there and you're like, my life's all bad, nothing's ever going to be right, oh, my home environment's not good, it's not going to change. You have to take that step and seek for help. You have to start looking at things on a more positive note.
So how do you guys, obviously life is all full of stress, right? And given your backgrounds, you carry a little extra, what I'll call an extra anchor, if you will, than some of us who haven't experienced where you're at. How do you deal with stress in stressful situations? What do you do?
I write, I work an awful lot. I write, I exercise, I talk to my family. That's something that I never did. I never expressed my feelings to my family, and I'm able to be open now today.
How about you, Dan? Yeah, how do you handle stressful situations now? You talk about goal and purpose, but when life throws a curveball at you, instead of reaching for, a controlled substance, how are you dealing with it?
Yeah, that's one thing you've really got to pay attention to out of everything, is you've got to find yourself a healthy habit, because you had a bad habit for a long time, but you've got to replace it with something. I replaced mine by starting to work out, staying physical, being healthy. I started gaining weight, feeling better about myself, feeling better about myself, feeling better, kept me clean too, just physical, working out, producing those extra endorphins too, Workout is my biggest stress relief though, is definitely staying active,
Fantastic. Other question. Well, I will say this. We did get a comment from Ashley Westerland. They thanking you guys for your incredible courage and for sharing these stories.
You're welcome.
They're very, very. This will get me on my soapbox just a little bit, but certainly we hear a lot in the news. In particular, if you pay attention to a lot of what's happening, not only in certain states in our nation, but here in Michigan as well, where marijuana is really. I think there's some information being passed around that it's certainly medicine now. We've got medical marijuana here in Michigan. There's more than likely going to be an initiative on a ballot pretty soon about making recreational use legal. A lot of folks that I talk to talk about the fact that, hey, look, it's no big deal. It's marijuana. What's the big deal? And don't recognize the fact that the active psychotic ingredient THC is more potent today than it ever was back in the 60s and 70s. So I guess my question to you is, and the question on this card is, we hear that THC is not harmful all the time. Are people being honest about that?
No. They have done a lot of studies on marijuana. Now, they are prescribing it to people with different disorders, cancer, different health reasons. But those are the people that do it because they're prescribed it. It's just as if you were put on an antibiotic. That's what their body needs at that point. But it's just as if you were abusing a prescription drug. You're not prescribed it, so it's not for you. And especially with kids, I started at such a young age, and I'll tell you, throughout them 8 years, my mind never felt clear for 5 to 6 years in my bed. That's when my mind started clearing up. Like, it will cloud your judgment.
Rika, do you have any information for us on that particular question?
What we're finding now in the emergency rooms and in the hospital, the THC is being attributed to causing what's called cyclical vomiting syndrome or a cannabis emesis syndrome. Basically what you're doing is you're throwing up all day. We see the patients come into ER with abdominal pain, nausea and vomiting. We get their history. We may already know them from other visits. Constant throwing up. It's worse than morning sickness. Okay, it's just that constant. Of course, we tell these people, stop their marijuana. And it's, oh, no, that can't be doing it. And in certain cases, people have stopped, and doggone it, those symptoms have gone away.
Now, the other question on this card, and we kind of answered it, maybe we want to reiterate it, but the question is how can you get addicted to marijuana? What does it do? I know you've kind of talked in general terms. For you, Kaylee, certainly, I know you, Dan, kind of touched on it as well, but maybe you can describe, in some detail what the addiction did for you and how easy it was for you to get addicted. In other words, it wasn't like you took a drink and decided, I'm not going to drink that anymore. You continued for quite a few years after that.
Yeah, once I started at 13, I never stopped until I got incarcerated. You start feeling more depressed smoking marijuana. You start to feel more down. You don't feel like you're energized, but mentally and emotionally, you feel like you still need it. You feel like this is the only thing that's gonna make me feel better. This is the only thing that's gonna make whatever that hurtful feeling is inside go away. But when you come down, I can guarantee you that problem is still going to be there.
Dan, how about you? I mean, obviously, you indicated in your life story that you started with that and progressed into other more powerful substances. the question on addiction itself. I mean, can you get addicted to marijuana, and what does it lead to?
Yeah, you can definitely become addicted to it. You know, it's a mental thing too. You know, it's like people who smoke cigarettes all the time. It's a nicotine, but it's right. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing. You know, like you go out with your friends, you get high with them, and that's what you guys do. It's fun every day. You know, it's you guys relax, and then all of a sudden it gets to a point that you know that you're not thinking anymore. Like, oh, I've used marijuana all 5 days this week. You know, I'm up. And you don't think it's a problem anymore because you're the way your brain thinks that you're using this. Oh, this isn't a problem. It's just a regular pot. Again, I mean, like that pot can definitely lead into a lot of really bad things. So just don't take pot on the park, you know, guys. It's definitely a gateway drug, and it can, you know, now things are much more potent as well too. So now there is like a type of almost withdrawal symptom off it because the THC levels are so much higher now. There's edibles, there's, you know what I mean, there's the dabs, you know, everything's just like 80%, you know, way higher percentage levels, you know, so doing that every day, yeah, you could definitely become addicted to it.
We've got a question here from Latanya Williams, and her question is, how do you both deal with the stigma of people knowing your history of addiction? Caitlin.
It's a struggle. See, with mine, it's not just about addiction, it's about the choices that I made, going to prison. It's hard. It's absolutely hard. You know, my family has forgiven me and the people that know me have forgiven me, but I still get people that turn their nose up to me. I still have people that don't trust me around. So it's definitely a struggle, but what I remind myself every day is that I know I'm not that 16-year-old girl anymore. And I know, my parents know, and that's all that matters.
How about you, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, right before you asked me to do this, I put a post on my Facebook, and you know, a lot of people knew about my recovery and my road, and the last 3 years I've been clean, staying in touch with it. But there was a group of my friends and people who I associate with that really didn't know about it. So when it came out, you know, like I could see people, you know, definitely looking at me maybe in a different type of way. But again, this leads back to I don't care that the way that they look at me because I'm not that person anymore. And I know what his plan is for me, and that's to use everything that I went through to help people, my younger self, not to make it through it. So the more that they want to beat me down, they can go ahead, because at the end of the day, I don't care. Only thing I care about is having that one person tell me, because of you, Dan, I didn't give up. That's the only thing I care about now. So.
Well, I know we've had these, when we talked prior to this, both of you, and I think you indicated as part of this event today, both of you have indicated your willingness to help, to be that kind of that support person. And so, you know, hopefully we've got some school administrators or some principals or teachers watching this right now, or may watch it later on the archive. What message do you have to the schools as far as your availability goes? I mean, how far are you willing to go to save that one person?
Any distance.
Short and sweet. You'd be a very good politician.
Yeah, they should give me a call.
Well, and certainly for those schools out there, we do have contact information for both of these two young folks. They have and continue to serve quite a mission here. And if you haven't picked it up as you've watched this, they are very driven to do the right thing. So that's awesome. We do have a few more minutes. Is there anybody here in the live audience that has a question for our panelists? Anybody want to step out on a limb and ask a question? It's okay, students, you can ask questions. We won't put a camera on you, I promise. Yes, sir.
Can we talk about the process of rehab, where it was, or what the process was?
The rehab that I made.
Yeah.
So let me just repeat the question.
What worked?
The question was a very good one. Asked about the process of rehab, what he went through and what actually ended up working.
So leads back to the story that I told you guys. The rehab that finally did it for me was the Salvation Army, and that's a Christian-based program. It's a little bit longer, it's a year program, but it's Christian-based. So you go there, and they teach you, it's just not they're not drilling Christian in your head, but they teach you some foundation, some good foundation from, you know, a Christian program. And they also teach you, they put you to work 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, which is another big thing for addicts, because we need to use drugs in order to go to work. If we don't have our drugs, we can't go to work. So we get stuck using drugs so we can continue going to work. There, it shows you how to work, be around an environment of people, dealing with situations. I mean, that was huge for me because I needed to learn how to be able to work without using drugs. And that program does that for you. They work you, very good program. I mean, I swear by it. It's just, but again, it could be any rehab. You could go to anyone and change it around. It starts with you and what's inside. And if you really truly want to do it, you can't do it for somebody else either. It can't be, well, I'm going to do it for mom and dad. I'm going to do it for my principal. It's got to be truly something that you truly want inside yourself. You want to be able to be a better person. You want to be able to wake up and not be sick anymore. It's going to be hard. It's going to be tough. You're going to get beat up, but you just got to make sure that you keep pushing forward. You got to keep that direction.
Okay, the same question, rehab. You know, I know you talked about the program you were in prison. You didn't talk about the fact what it truly meant to you, because you finished. There was a point in time when you finished that program, and what happened after that?
They kept me in the unit. I became a mentor in that group. I started to show the new girls the girls that came in had the same feelings as me. Oh, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. And I started talking to them. And I started to push them and let them see that you're afraid to do this because you don't want to deal with the emotions. You don't want to deal with your past. You don't want to deal with anything that's hurting you. So I would talk to them and push them to make them see, like, I was that girl when I came in. I was the girl that was like, oh no, this isn't for me. But then once I sat down and I started going to the groups and I started working through my emotions, I instantly noticed I was a miserable person before that because I carried so much of everything on me that I never wanted to let out. And the counselors there were amazing. We had so many different groups, different topics in order to work on everything, you know, and it's amazing.
Well, it sounds like from the both of you that communication is the key. It's talking. It's recognizing that there's an issue, that you need to work through that and continually communicate, and finding that individual or that organization that you connect with.
One of the things that, so while I was in the program, we had like these family meetings in the morning, and like we had to, each day a different name got pulled, and you had to write a paper based on the topic that they gave you. Okay, one of the topics that stuck with me is I always thought my whole life that I could solve everything on my own. I didn't need nobody else. It's just me. I got this. They gave me a topic one time, and I didn't understand it at first, but it said, you alone can do it, but you cannot do it alone. You have to have support. You have to, or it's not gonna work.
Rika, did you have a comment?
I just had one last word. As everybody has said, talk to your parents. Parents, talk to your children. Number one, lock those pills up. Parents, look at why you're taking those pills, because I'll tell you, your kids watch what you do. Okay, so count them, lock them up, get rid of them, and even yourself as a parent, consider getting off of them.
I hope, both in the studio here, the live audience, as well as those that have been watching it, you recognize the importance of this topic and why we wanted to bring it to Muskegon County, in particular why we wanted to address it to our young people. This is something that I know a lot of you have probably either seen, maybe experienced, and maybe are struggling with. And so the point of this is that, you know, it's not a stigma. There is help out there, and don't fall down this rabbit hole. Because as you can tell from these two stories, and this is two amongst many, believe you me, and the profession that I'm in and the job that I do, I see this on a daily basis. So this is not unique. This is something that we're struggling in this county as well as across the state and across this nation. Find help, find that person, and really listen and believe in your heart that you can make a change for your life. I want to thank everybody for being a part of this. The only other plug I'm going to give is for parents, and I have this app on my phone. We all have smartphones. If you download Talk Sooner, the Talk Sooner app to your phone, That is a wealth of information for parents. It talks about warning signs. It talks about how you talk to your kids about this stuff. Believe you me, parents, and I'm a parent with 3 kids. Those kids talk, and they know a lot more than you think they know. And I am a testament to that. I'm amazed sometimes what comes out of my kids' mouth. They know more than you think they know. TalkSooner.org is a helpful resource for parents to go to really start engaging your kids in these conversations, because you gotta have them. Again, I want to thank all of our video folks. I want to thank the volunteers. I especially want to thank Muskegon Community College for hosting this event. Thank you very much. And for my 3 panelists, you guys did a fantastic job. Thank you so much. And again, keep that conversation rolling.
Thank you.